All right, we are back on Morning Line. Our guest is Hedy Weinberg with the ACLU here in Middle Tennessee. Taking your calls if you want to join us, 737-7587. Hedy, next up, I want to ask you about the ACLU and where they stand right now on what the state has just passed, one of the most restrictive abortion bills in the country. Still awaiting for the governor, I believe, to sign it. As amended, the legislation criminalizes medical professionals who perform an abortion after 6 weeks and restricts the reasons a woman can have an abortion, severely restricting it, even when it comes to rape or incest. Not long after this was passed, I think you and two other organizations came out to say that you'll see them in court, and this is going to be a legal challenge. Set that up for us, and I'm wondering if this is yet again one of these cases that's coming out of states where they hope it'll be the test case that finally does go to the U.S. Supreme Court.
That's certainly the plan of Governor Lee. Yeah, let's step back for a second. We've been across the country, but especially in the South and in Tennessee, fighting efforts to ban or restrict abortion for quite some time. And we all know that in 2014, the state constitution was amended to place language in there that said there is no right to abortion under the state constitution. That came after 2 decades where, in fact, the state constitution was interpreted to say that there is a right to abortion under the state constitution. But that being said, since 2014, there have been efforts, very aggressive efforts, to pass these restrictive laws. And the ACLU, with Planned Parenthood and the Center for Reproductive Rights, continue, when we are not successful at the legislature, and we all lobby there, but continue to go to court to fight these very serious, dangerous restrictions on women's access to comprehensive reproductive health care, which, as you know, includes access to abortion. In Tennessee, actually, within the last 2 months, this is the second time Tennessee politicians have tried to ban abortion in the last 2 months. And the first was soon after the governor issued a state of emergency and said that only essential services should be up and running. And he said that abortion was not an essential service. We all know that, access to health care as it relates to your pregnancy is an essential service. You want to ensure that you can have a healthy pregnancy, and you want to ensure, because of timing, that you have a right to access an abortion if that is a decision made by the woman and her family or her physician or her clergy. And so the governor tried to shut down access to abortion during the state of emergency that he called. ACLU went to court with Planned Parenthood and the Center for Reproductive Rights, and it was very clear the judge ruled that abortion is in fact an essential service during the pandemic and should be available, so women were able to protect themselves and protect their health and seek health care. Right now, the let's say that smokescreen has been lifted, and in the legislature, with guidance and a directive almost, so they supported what the governor wanted, went to decided the last night of the legislature meeting that they were going to pass this comprehensive, as they describe it, most restrictive abortion ban in the country. And in fact, they did. And that in itself is concerning, that this happened in the middle of the night when all of us were assured that this would not be a bill that would move through the Senate. We knew it was moving through the House, but we had been told that it was not going to move through the Senate. And we understand now that, of course, there was some budget negotiating and bargaining as to what each chamber would give into in order to get the budget passed. So we, at 12:30, I think it was 12:30, 1 o'clock in the middle of the night, ACLU, Planned Parenthood, we were all up watching what was happening, texting each other, texting legislators, and we saw the bill pass. The bill is not yet to the governor. It's not yet on his desk, but because we know the governor will sign it, because again, it's an administration bill, we felt very strongly that we had to file a lawsuit ASAP. So our attorneys, an amazing legal team made up of 3 organizations, filed the lawsuit in federal court. And once the governor signs the law, it's my understanding the judge will rule whether or not he will issue what we've asked for, which is a motion for preliminary injunction, which means that the law will not be put into effect. The way this law reads, in terms of what the text says in the bill, is that the law goes into effect immediately upon the signature of the governor, which is why it was so important for us to file a lawsuit now rather than waiting, because there are thousands and thousands of women who make decisions, difficult decisions every day. This is one more example of where government politicians should not be involved in one's personal health care, and certainly should not be telling women what's best for them, which is what we see, unfortunately, time and time again. So the governor needs to sign the law. The judge will make a determination whether or not the law will go into effect, or will the judge do what we have asked him to do, which is to ensure that the law be on hold and not go into effect until a decision is made by the court.
Gotcha.
So we're we're on pause for a moment.
Okay. All right. Let's take a phone call. Let's take a phone call on that for a moment here. I've got a follow-up question to you as well, but let's go to Jack. Jack, good morning. Hi, Jack.
Good morning. How are you folks doing?
Good, good. Go ahead, sir.
All right, what I've got is a comment on in opposition to the person who called earlier. I'd like to say to Smiley that I'm also a veteran, and the reason I served was, or one of the reasons I served was to protect the ACLU. I personally prefer a lot of the things that the ACLU does, even though I don't particularly agree with them sometimes. But they're important, and that's one of the reasons why I served. Also, in the abortion issue, I was just absolutely amazed at the number of individuals who came to our household, and our household is known a lot of, in a lot of places as being the place to go if you want information about how to get rid of for any other term, a baby. And I call that the coat hanger and the natural drug period. In the period when it was illegal to get rid of a child or whatever from the womb, I was just amazed at the number of individuals who came to our household seeking information about doing this, one way or the other. It may be, against someone's belief, but the fact is most of the people who vote for these kinds of laws are male. They don't think about the female side of these things. I don't know why they don't, but that's something to think about.
Well, Jack, thank you. Yeah, interesting. Obviously there's a lot of support for this in the state of Tennessee, and that's why it's interesting to me that they went ahead and passed it with, the dark of night and catching so many of you by surprise. But what do you think about what Jack was saying there, Hedy?
Well, I think, unfortunately, women who have resources will always be able to travel to other states to have an abortion, California, Hawaii. Black and brown women, women in rural areas, women who have no resources will not have the same ability. And I think we need to recognize that regardless of there being an abortion ban or not, if you can't travel, you will attempt to either abort the fetus yourself, or at the same time, you will go to some back alleys, which we saw happening all the time in the 50s and 60s prior to Roe, and you will either die or you will find yourself desperately ill. So it's unfortunate that, again, when we're talking about a healthcare service, we're not recognizing that women should make that decision. It's a very personal decision. It's a very intimate decision. Hopefully they make it with family, hopefully they make it with their physician, obviously their healthcare provider, who makes a choice whether or not to proceed. And with clergy, many people are guided by their own faith and by their clergy. I think what's important to recognize with this particular law that is coming to Tennessee is there is no exception for rape and incest, which means that if a woman, a young girl, which we know happens, is raped or is a victim of incest, she is, according to legislators, politicians in this state who voted for this bill, she is required to carry that pregnancy to term. It's just not acceptable. And again, we have been told time and time again by the courts that an individual, a woman, has the right to make a decision about her access to abortion. Over the last year, there have been about 25 laws passed in 12 or 15 states attempting to either ban abortion, as this law does basically, or put very serious, dangerous restrictions on one's ability to access abortion. And the court, as far as I'm aware, in each of these cases that have been brought to court by ACLU, Planned Parenthood, or the Center for Reproductive Rights, in each of those cases, the judges have ruled that these abortion bans or restrictions are unconstitutional. I think, and I know, we all know that the Governor Lee wants to see this bill go up to the U.S. Supreme Court. What we've been hearing and seeing, and this is all public, is that I'm not sure the Supreme Court is willing or wants to hear this case. And I think the public, if you look at polling, that, again, very personal decisions, and this is not about a majority vote who thinks it's okay for women to access abortion. These are very personal decisions and should not fall within the purview of politicians and state legislatures.
Well, listen, we're going to take a break on that, but we do know that the dynamic of that Supreme Court has changed, and the whole question is what will happen to Roe v. Wade. Sooner or later, the court's going to hear one of these cases, Hedy, and then we'll have to see how the vote goes. It's going to happen. We're going to take a break. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue and let her talk a bit about that and take more of your phone calls as well right after this. Stay with us.